It is Friday, December 22nd, 2017, and in this video, I'm going to be covering uh, cycle forecasts for 2018, which I believe we're going to see some extreme volatility and big market moves and possible market crash during 2018. Now here we have on this first slide I have Gann and one of his quotes from Tunnel Through the Air. Remember, everything in this universe is elliptical or circular in motion. That applies both to the abstract and to the concrete, the mental, physical, and spiritual. Every thought you think makes a circular and it comes back to you. Tunnel Through the Air, W.D. Gann. Now, let's close that off. What I like to start off with is, as I said in this video, this is part one, because the length of these forecasts will probably be either 2 or 3 parts due to the 15-minute limitation video length on YouTube. So this first part, I'm going to be talking about the 90-year synodic cycle, which ties into secular bull and bear markets, extreme peaks and lows of those markets on the Dow Jones, S&P 500. But for the moment, we'll relate this to the Dow Jones. Now, it is believed that Gann, well, it's not believed, that Gann discovered this important cycle when he looked back over the history of the Dow Jones, which the Dow Jones was first formed, or the origin can be traced back to May 1792, when the Bottomwood Agreement was signed by 24 brokers outside of 68 Wall Street. So this is how far back this origin and this cycle dates. And through Gann's looking back through history, he discovered the 90-year synodic cycle, which is it's primarily based on, it's the cycle between Uranus and Neptune, and Uranus pretty much doing a full cycle through the zodiac and back to its starting point. So first of all, here we have, I've opened, this is an astrology chart called Astrolog 6.20. You can download this off the net for free. I'll put a description in the link for those who are interested in downloading it, and I'll also put a link to a YouTube tutorial by a guy, I forget his name, that goes through how to set this up so you get it working and looking properly, as I've done. So anyway, so this is what we call the wheel, and we have the zodiac, the 12 houses. Now at the moment I've only got 2 planets showing, and that is Uranus and this one. So that's Uranus, and this one is Saturn, because at the moment I want to discuss and show and illustrate the importance of the 90-year synodic cycle. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is go on the jump rate to years, and we're going to go all the way back, right back to the crash of 1929, which was October
29th. Black Tuesday, as they famously call it. So here we are, Tuesday, October 29th, 1929. Okay. So first of all, we have Saturn here in the 9th house of Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. Sagittarius is considered a negative sign. It brings negative aspects, especially in business transactions, institutional banking, and so forth. And we have Uranus in Aries, which is another barren negative sign. So what Gann discovered with the synodic cycles when he was going back all the way back to the creation of Dow Jones or the New York Stock Exchange back in the 1700s was every time Uranus and Neptune would reach these points in the zodiac where Uranus would come back into Aries and it'd be squared. This is what we call a square of Saturn, a 90 degrees squared. It always tied into extreme market tops and bear markets that followed, market panics and so forth. So this cycle is a very, very important. This 90-degree cycle always represents the top end of extreme market movements. Now, just a brief description of what I mean by 90 degrees squared. It's when two planets in the zodiac, they don't have to be exactly, but almost identical, and 90 degrees squared. Now, in mundane astrology, in relation to financial markets, 45, 90 degrees, 180, which is opposition or even a conjunction, pretty much represent negative aspects in markets, turning points in markets, slow business activities and so forth. Secular bull markets are often represented by what we call trines to planets, where that's 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 120, and can even be a conjunction, which is 360, certain points in the zodiac. So in this case, because we're looking at patterns in the past of what the Uranus and the Saturn cycle in relation to each other, where they were squared and which part of the zodiac, what Gann worked out determined that caused the market panic and crash of 1929. Now, over here you can see there's the degrees of Saturn at 266 in Sagittarius, and Uranus, which was actually in retrograde, which means not moving forward, reverse motion, was at 8 degrees. Now, if we subtract 8 from 266, we get a 258. Now, Gann worked out when these planets are near 260 degrees in the zodiac, combined 260 degrees, it's a very waning effect and is a very negative aspect to that. So that's what Gann discovered with these, as well as the actual degrees in the house in the respective planets. So in other words, Uranus is 8 degrees in the house of Aries, which is considered, I need to get my notes on this one for a second. What are my notes? Which is actually nearing what we call a hard aspect. At 266 degrees in Sagittarius, Saturn is nearing so 26 degrees in Sagittarius is nearing a hard aspect as well. So combining all these things together as well, there's obviously other smaller cycles that tie in and conjunct with these as well, but that's beyond the scope of this in this first part of this analysis. So this is what Gann worked out, and he knew, this is how Gann knew how to forecast this. And in fact, Gann put out it was called a scientific supply and demand letter back in the year before the crash in 1928. His yearly forecast for 1929, he picked the market top literally on the day and the crash that would follow. And this is how he knew the markets would crash, by understanding the 90-year synodic cycle and the relationship between Uranus and Saturn when it's squared. Okay, so let's jump forward back to present day, or 2018. Scroll forward with that. It's around. So here we have 2016. So 17. October 29, I'll just change that. I'll go back on that. Okay. So here we have, I've moved it to, and I'll explain why I've got this on January 15th around the state in a moment in part 2. But as we can see here, see how, first of all, Uranus has done pretty much a full cycle around the zodiac and returned back to Aries. And even though Saturn is not in Sagittarius, it's transited back to its house ruler, which is Capricorn. But as we can see, we still have this near this 260 degree waning effect back again. And we're almost back squared again. Now, as I said before, right at the tops of extreme market moves, extreme bull markets, and we know what's happened this year. We've had markets relentlessly going up. They always move in the last phase of a bull market in these extreme moves right before they crash. And once again, we have this cycle that's almost identical to what happened in 1929. So this ends the first part of this analysis. That is, we have the 90-year cycle that has come back. Uranus has done one complete revolution, has pretty much come back in its stationary house of Aries. We have it squared with Saturn in its own house of Capricorn, which is a very negative aspect, which I'll cover in the next part. And it's timing it near the end of extreme market moves. And that wraps up our part 1 of this 2018 forecast analysis.